Thank you, Mr. Yap. Our next speaker, Mr. Neil Yong, Deputy Chairman, Wahab Private Limited, will be sharing with us on alliance-driven success, insights from Wahab's journey. The floor is yours, Mr. Yong.
Hi, can you hear me? Yeah. Good morning, Mr. Tan Swee Yao, Ridas President, BCA Board, Mr. Kelvin Wong, and a lot of my clients in this room. It's actually very daunting to see all of you in one setting. And I think you guys are not used to seeing me so dressed up. Even my kids said, "Daddy, where are you going this morning?" Not daunting my normal polo tee. I said I got a big show and tell today. So I hope you guys will find it insightful and you'll enjoy it. So why are we here today? Again, Mr. Kelvin Wong asked us to come and help out. So they've been asking us to transform, right? They've been asking us to change. And they say that form alliances, collaboration is the key. What are my peers saying in the industry? We got no talent, we got no labor, we are just recovering from COVID. How many things you want us to do? How are we going to transform? But the truth is, we need to transform. All those problems mentioned are true, but if you look on the right-hand side, that shows a chart of the last 15 years on the value add for construction sector. We are almost the last, just above F&B. Right? We have not changed in 15 years. I think you guys in this room are in a much better situation. The real estate segment is almost at the top, so a lot of value add being added by you guys. Thank you for that. But the honest truth is, why is this happening and why is it not changing? I think we are in a vicious cycle that has kept us in this location. Right? We are starting with low barriers of entry. You've heard people talk about fragmentation of our industry. It's true. These low barriers of entry then obviously causes razor-thin margins, which then obviously in turn gives us no amount of money to pay salary or high salaries and to invest in R&D. And you know, we are laggard, productivity, technology adoption, and this just continues. Right? Do we want this to continue? You know, it's sad for me to listen to peers, you know, to see fellow business owners or saying that, oh, my son, my daughter don't want to join the industry anymore. Right? I think this is a common conversation that we've been hearing. Is this something that we want to see in our lifetimes, or do we want to make a change? You know, we've been talking about collaboration, and I think in 2019, I went for a BCA course. They asked us to sit there in a group, 20 minutes, come up with how to collaborate. It's been 6 years, and I'm still thinking how to collaborate. But this is my honest opinion. I think, you know, at the bottom, we have frameworks. These frameworks will help us, you know, NEC 4, CC. These are definitely good practices that we must put in place that will help us collaborate more efficiently. We have shared goals. You know, if the team is working towards one objective, you know, there's going to be more natural collaboration. But I think the magic happens is at mindset. And this is where Jonathan just said in his closing as well. We need to change the mindset of industry. Mindset affects behavior. Behavior, in turn, creates trust. And that is what I feel is the key for more natural collaboration. If we can build this natural trust among all ourselves here, you're going to see a lot more collaboration. So in 6 years, I've been thinking, I've been reading, and I think these 3 books are pretty good. I'll start with the one on the right, Outward Mindset. You can call it what you like. There's outward mindset, there's open mindset, there's growth mindset. But essentially, what this is talking about, the end goal is to achieve collaboration. And what does outward mindset advocate? We should treat each other like people and not like objects. And understand that each of us has our own objectives. And more importantly, the way we act towards that person has a very, very big impact on how that person will behave. Right? We need to think about how we can be outward to people. I'll give you an example. You know, I think about my team, and every day, you know, they just do what they need to do. They're not coming out of new ideas. They're not being innovative. And then I ask myself, and I ask them why, I scold them. And then they say, every day you tell me exactly what to do, why must I think? Right? So it's my behavior. It's my behavior that is affecting them to be inward, to not think creatively because I'm dictating, hey, do step A, do step B. No, cannot do step F. You haven't reached step D, step E yet. Right? So how we behave impacts a person. The second thing I would like to talk about is give and take. Having a giver's mindset. It talks about having three different kinds of people in the world. People who give, they don't really care based on what they give, whether they'll receive anything in return. What they care about is whether their time is valuable, whether they can be useful to that person, to that situation. They are takers, always me, right? What is in it for me? And then there are matchmakers. Okay, you give me one, I give you one back. Okay, quid pro quo, I'll help you out. And I would like to advocate having a giver's mindset. Right? Don't think about what is it in it for you in this instance, but how can it help everybody? You never know what is going to come back in return. And the book says that, in a corporate ladder, givers are actually at the top and at the bottom. Right? There are pitfalls of being a giver and a giver only if you don't know how to manage it. You could be a doormat. Every day you just give. But those who actually succeed in managing that well, they are able to bring a huge network with them that they are able to then rise to the top of the corporate ladder. Right? So I think we should all think about having a giver's mindset. The last mindset is from Simon Sinek, and he talks about the infinite game. Basically having an infinite mindset, and that's the kind of game that all of us are in. In life, it's not, a fixed duration, right? We are continuously trying to do more and more, right? We do not have a set time limit, and we need to think long term, right? And if we start to think long term, we start to make decisions for the long term. And I think this is something very important for us to think about as we're trying to adopt change. So how do we then put this, embed it in our organization, embed it in our whole environment, our whole sector? I think to me, it starts with what are the values, what's the passion of the company. And for us, a 97-year-old company, that's my grandfather over there with the big nose. And that's my late uncle who passed away. But basically, why I showed that photo is I just wanted to relate what my father, our chairman, the passion or the fire in his belly that he shares with me, he shares with the company. When he was a young man and he was tendering, he was a proud Singaporean. And he would go for tenders and he would not get a phone call. And it would be awarded to a foreign contractor. And he was very, very upset with that. He wanted to prove himself that we Singaporeans can build well too. And that is what has been driving him. For those of you who know him, he's really driven. Okay? And that was us. When I joined the company over 20 years ago, our top line was about 100 million. So that was the fire in his belly. What's the fire in my belly? Now, our turnover last year, we have grown substantially in the last 20 over years. Our top line is closer to 2 billion. So we've grown about 20x. And we're one of the largest contractors, the largest local contractor in Singapore. Right? So what drives me now is, I think it is my responsibility, my team's responsibility, to drive the change in the environment, in the industry that we want to see, to reverse that vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle, so that our children will want to enter the sector. And that is what drives us. So how do we put that down? Very simply, a couple of years ago, we reviewed our core purpose, and it's very simple. We just want to do well and do good. Doing well to us is building sustainable businesses, right? Infinite game. Something that is beyond our lifetime. We're thinking in an infinite game. Right, and we want to do good, positively impact people's lives. The most common way of thinking about that would be helping the non-profit sector. Yes, we do that, but there are other ways that we can do good too. We can do good to all the people around us, those that we come into contact with. How do we treat them? Are we giving them kindness? Are we having mutual respect? Are we listening to them? And of course, we can help the wider sector, the country, change what needs to be changed. And to us, that is do well, do good. And the 5 items below are the core values that we have put into the company. So we have come up with a credo, essentially a pledge to ourselves within the company on how we should behave, how we should act, and how we should make decisions. And just highlighting a few of the key things in there, we want to shape the built environment. I've spoken about where that fire, where that passion comes from, and I'm happy to find like-minded people in the company to follow me in this mission. Right? We want to keep improving. We want to adopt a learner's mindset, to keep changing ourselves. And the most important thing below, as a giver's mindset, we feel the collective is more important than self. Okay, one of the examples in terms of collaboration I would like to highlight was during COVID. This example on collaboration shows that the sum of all parts is greater than each part itself. And what we were able to do in Project Haven, when all the borders were shut, industry was closed, circuit breaker 4 months, everybody behind time, no workers coming out, we managed to work together with all these key collaborators across agencies, across different industries, from the private sector, from the public sector, and come up with a solution to bring workers in to Singapore. And we were successful in doing so, and we have brought 6,000 migrant workers in together, infection-free. I can see Ivan there, those times, right? We were able to do this only because we all came together. You imagine that, BCA, MOM, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Trade, we worked together with the private sector and found a solution, and we did it in such a short time, right? This is a very positive example of what collaboration can do, and to have synergy among all players to achieve what could not have otherwise been achieved. I echo what Jonathan said. We are still very, very new in the industry in innovation, but hopefully you all understand why we're passionate about trying it. I'll be highlighting some examples here. I won't be jumping into the technical details, but I think what is more interesting is the thought process on why we are doing it. Okay, in general, all the examples that are being shown, it is a cost-negative situation versus the traditional method. I would like to thank, obviously, agencies, our clients, our consultants for jumping on board and supporting, whether it's through grants or being more open-minded in accepting something that looks a little bit different. So each of these has a different story. For the MAP Riser, this happened when there was a BET scheme, and developers would get free GFA. You have to fulfill all the different requirements on digital productivity, sustainability. But what this example showed was that we actually went in with the developer early on in MOU. When they won the land, we won the job. And that gave us time to come up with solutions that created that win-win-win, where they got GFA, we were able to get a grant on this thing, and now we have produced in-house solution to prefab M&E risers as well. After we have done this, this has now translated to other jobs that we are applying it to. One example would be a data center project where we had to put huge, heavy chiller pipes inside. And instead of hanging those pipes and you chain block it up on site, we were able to lay it flat, install it, and then hoist everything together. And this brought about an intangible benefit of higher safety standards on site. Right? So what I'm trying to say over here are all the intangible things and why we're doing it. With regards to the prefab lift shaft, we didn't manage to apply a grant for this. There were some complications, but I still instructed the team, go ahead and do it. We don't know what's our floor-to-floor cycle time savings. Of course, there's productivity savings in terms of labor, right? But there are possible additional benefits to the industry that I hope to see. We think about overhead bridges. We need to change overhead bridges. Maybe we want to put lifts, right? Maybe we want it to be more handicap-friendly. And this provides a solution that is plug and play, right? You don't have to start to obstruct the roads all the time. You can drop in all these boxes. These overhead bridges can be built fast. And I'm hoping that this is another intangible benefit. On the last example, it was just a couple of years ago, I think I was at HDB and I was complaining to them, we can't even standardize risers in our developments. And I'm very glad to be proven wrong now. We are going to be implementing this across 5 projects. And what I want to say here is because of the architects. The architects have changed. They have standardized their floor-to-floor heights that I can now prefab an entire riser together with the shaft and hoist it inside. Together with the requirements on PPVC, our cranes are already, very heavy tip load. So there's no additional cost in terms of the logistics that we need to set up on site. And this is another intangible benefit. Robotics is very interesting that Jonathan covered the 2 robots that I didn't want to talk about so much, and thank you for explaining in detail what they do, so I'll skip the 2 middle ones. But again, my personal opinion, I don't think we are ready to scale for robotics yet. The industry is not ready, the technology is not ready. I just wanted to highlight 2 stories. The first robot is actually a robot that just does tile grouting, you know, the pointing in between the tiles. I think you guys should be familiar. And we have invested into the startup firm to do this, and this is version 5 of the robot. And I asked my team, why did you guys choose to do tile pointing? It's such a small piece of work. And they gave me a very pragmatic answer. They said, I just want to start on something small and make it successful. And I think that is a great way for us to think about how we want to approach innovation in the industry. You know, don't keep waiting for the guy next to you. Don't keep waiting for a better situation to appear. Just start. Start small. And I think Jonathan said it, fail fast, move on, right? I don't know if these are going to succeed. Maybe next year I'll be presenting, or 5 years later, these all didn't succeed, but we need to try. I think on the last one was what we're going to be doing is plastering and painting robot. What I wanted to highlight about this, we have to change, again, our mindset and the way we work if we even want robots to be successful. If you think about where are we going to deploy it in a residential project, where is there a large area that this robot can move unobstructed and do its work effectively, you will think about the basement for us in a residential project. But we have to change the way we work. We have to think about how we sequence construction. That's the first thing. The second thing, we need to change our mindset. I would normally put my basement with all my extra material. I will fill it with my material, but if this robot were to be moving, I have to plan differently. No material in until he finishes his plastering, finishes his painting, then I can deploy extra material in my basement to keep the rest of the site clean. So I think it's good for us to start, so we can start to think differently, we can start to plan differently, and this may equip our organization with the capabilities and the mindset when robots are ready to scale. 3D printing, you know, the PBU, the one on the right is already deployed. Jonathan has covered it. It's a non-structural PBU. What we are actually happy to announce is that this year, we are moving ahead with doing a composite structure. Half of it will take structural weights, half of it will still be cast in situ, right? So we're still going to print. It's a very small project. I think it's like 46 meter cube. But again, I want to start. It's costing us an arm and a leg, but we want to start. Why? We want to push the regulators. We want to push the academics to get the material certified, to get the conversations going, to make these printed material structurally able to take structural load, and we need to start somewhere. The other thing we want to do is push our authorities, start coming up with regulations on how do you want to regulate 3D printing in the future. Right? These are the decisions that go through management's head on why we say go forward, although it's going to hit our bottom line. Okay, the next one is a good example on win-win-win-win. This is something that we worked with TTJ and SIT to develop a higher grade steel. Okay, with a higher grade steel, what this means is that we don't need to install so many king posts to take structural load, right? So that helps out with site, less obstruction, easier to work. Quantities of steel are reduced, which means savings in money. Using less steel means saving the environment as well. It's the first in the world to be deployed for more than a 20-story building. And I won't talk so much and let you watch a short video which SIT produced.
People may think that construction is an old, traditional, industrial. Maybe it couldn't link much with technology. But actually, it's not true. We always look for innovation and alternative construction methodology to assist in the construction industry. This S619 material is one of them.
非常开心能获得这个奖项。我们采用了这个科技，让我们赢得了更多新的项目，在跟我们业界的竞争对手方面，我们有一个凸显的优势。所以这方面我们特别感谢邱教授团队的帮助。
We see the potential of this application in various applications, ranging from king posts to sky bridges to retractable roof. The difference between this S690 steel plate and this S355 is how we achieve the strength.
Compared to the traditional S355, the strength actually is almost double, but then the overall tonnage is reduced about 30 to 40%. It's much lighter and easy to fabricate and also easy to install. Definitely is a game-changing material. The material used is much lesser, so about 30-40%. So definitely we can reduce manpower and resources.
As a University of Applied Learning, the intention of doing research is really to impact industry through our research. This is a very good example of how the research from CTIL has indeed raised technology readiness levels, as well as market readiness of a technology of a product that can truly impact a company as well as the sector.
通过这个合作呢，现在更多的一些合作伙伴们现在都主动的跟我们联系，主动的跟新工大联系，希望以后有更多的合作机会。
Our objective is to bring this applied research into real application within the shortest possible time.
Okay, so in conclusion, what can we do more to facilitate the change in mindset, to facilitate collaboration, to change that vicious cycle into, a virtuous one? Can we start scoring for mindset within our organization itself, for culture? Right? Can we start doing that even at tenders? How do we start measuring for longer-term goals? A lot of times it's project on one project. I'm glad there's GTS, Growth Transformation Scheme, now that we look across several projects. But all of us are usually focused on the project. How do we adopt, that infinite mindset of thinking longer, right? How do we facilitate our decision makers to dare to make these decisions? Can he tell boss, I'm going to give this contractor, I'm going to cost you so much more money, and then after that shareholders start to complain, right? What sort of flexible guardrails can we put in place that will allow decision makers to factor in this in their decisions, right? So I hope we all can start thinking about that. In closing, I'll try and paraphrase what Simon Sinek said in The Infinite Game. Few, if any of us, have the courage to change. We need to find like-minded individuals who believe that we need to change, who have the same desire to work together to change. Difficult decisions, hard decisions, are not made by great men or great women. They are made by great teams and great partnerships who have the same deep trust and shared purpose. I hope together, and I hope in my lifetime, we will reverse this vicious cycle and turn it into a virtuous one. Thank you.